We're talking about virtual learning days, which is something that Galena does when you do have a snow day. You've been doing this successfully now for a few years. What are the expectations for students and staff on a virtual day?
So they have to log in, and we did a lot of work on the front end to make sure that we had device equity and make sure that we boned up our fleet of computers for students and make sure that they all have access. So that's really the prerequisite to all of this. And then leading into being able to offer these as snow days. For teachers, we had a lot of different meetings and troubleshooting and seeing what this would look like and what their expectations are. And really, it's across the board. It really goes across the board as far as teacher expectations. We expect, and the state expects them to take attendance that we submit as we would any other traditional day, and then they engage students with whatever they would have been doing on that day. So it looks very differently from a high school chemistry class to a first grade reading lesson to a PE class. We require that all of the classes that they would normally have are still happening. But other than that, teachers have a lot of autonomy to engage kids as they normally would.
What's the benefit of engaging kids on a day when, kids even 20 miles away are having a snow day? What's the benefit to keeping them in this learning environment?
Well, I think, what we learned from COVID is that long-term, computer virtual instruction is not the answer. It doesn't replace in-person instruction. We're not trying to say that it is. It is a viable option, though. And I think of what we saw at the beginning of the pandemic when we first dove into virtual learning is that we had very high engagement at the very start of it. As a one-off, kids kind of look at it as a novelty right now. They understand their expectations at this point. And, we have very high attendance for it. So I think it's something that the novelty would wear off over time if this was a long-term deal. But, we're talking one-off, snow days every once in a while. So we still get very high engagement on these days.
What's some of the pushback you've heard in using virtual instead of just giving kids the day off?
We haven't heard a lot of that. I had communicated that, at the beginning of every year around November, I communicate that, we have several options with inclement weather. And in those options are, things like 2-hour delays and early releases, snow days, and then virtual learning. So we try to communicate ahead of time so that there's no cleanup on the other end. And it's been very positively received. We do get a question here and there of like, are snow days gone forever and that kind of thing. But for the most part, we haven't had really any pushback on it.
Tim Vincent, Superintendent of Galena Schools, thanks so much for joining us today.